All right, we're going to do a quick recap of last week's lesson. We were talking about scaling, how to scale a drawing. Two of the most common scales that you're going to see in the construction industry on our plumbing prints is a 1/4 inch scale, and you might also see the 1/8 inch scale. I mean, a 1/4 of an inch on your tape measure is going to be worth 1 foot in real life, or if it was the 1/8 inch scale, an eighth of an inch on your tape measure is going to be worth 1 foot in real life. So, just a quick little recap of that. If you took, first of all, you need to make sure you know how to read your tape measure, that you can read fractions on there, that you know where 5/8 of an inch is, you know where 7/16 of an inch is, you know how to read that tape measure. If you don't know how to read that tape measure, you need to reach out to me and we can get you some help and make sure that you can do that. Okay, that's going to be real important for you in the trades. Let's take the end of a ruler or a tape measure here. And we said the 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so if we see the big line on the end of your ruler and it's labeled as 0, the 1 inch mark is going to be over here. We're going to say that this is the 1/4 inch mark. So we're going to say this 1/4 of an inch, if we're on the 1/4 inch scale, we're going to say this 1/4 of an inch is worth 1 foot. So if you took a half of a quarter, what is half of a quarter? It's right there, which is going to be 1/8 of an inch. If you took 1 inch and you split it up into 8 equal parts, that's what it's going to look like. Okay, so then we took and we said, what's half of an eighth? If we took an eighth and we split that in half, what do we have? A 16th. Okay, and this is just review. If you need a little bit more, if you're like, wait a second, I need a little more help with this, go back to lesson 1 and watch the first part of lesson 1, and we will talk all about it. Okay, so we're going to say this 1/4 of an inch, which is equal to 1 foot, which 1 foot is 12 inches. So if we took a half of a foot, the 1/8 inch mark, what is half of 12 inches? 6 inches. And then we said, well, how about the 16th inch marks? What are those worth? Well, if the 1/8 inch mark is worth 6, and we said a 16th is a half of an eighth, then what's half of 6? 3 inches. So every 16th mark is worth 3 inches. So it goes 3 inches. Then another 16th or 2/16 is the same as 1/8 is 6 inches. Then we go to the 3/16 mark, add another 3 inches, which is going to be 9. If you added to 4/16, which is the same thing as 1/4, that is just 3 more inches added to it, 12 inches. Okay, so that's the 1/4 inch scale broken down is into the smallest amount that you can see on your tape measure. Now, that's the smallest we can read on the tape measure. If you did have something as a more accurate scale that had little lines here and broke it down even into 30 seconds, what would each one of these lines be worth? If you went from the 16th down to the 32nd, then each one of those would be worth 1.5 inches. So it's half of 3. So you go 1.5 inches to 3, and then you go 4.5 to 6, and so forth. Okay, there's your quick little recap of the scale. Let's look at your assignment. Now, everybody should have completed this assignment. You were to in the last week's video, I wrote some arrows and numbered them. You should have written down 5 fractions. Okay, that's part of your assignment. If you are watching this and you're like, uh-oh, wait a second, I must have missed something. Go back and watch lesson 1 video and look for the part where we cover and I ask for the 5 different fractions for you to name what they are. Okay, that was part of the assignment that you're going to be turning in. Also, the drawing assignment that you're turning in looked like this. You were scaling these lines to the house, and then you were going to center it on your piece of paper. Okay, let me go over the dimensions with you. All right. So this line right here, the height of this wall, which is going to be the same as this one right here, We said that was 9 feet. Now, but our scale is the quarter of an inch equals 1 foot. So for every foot, that's going to be 1/4 of an inch on your ruler or your tape measure. We said the height of this in real life is 9 feet. So when we scale that down, we have 9/4. Okay, so the length of the line in feet over what scale are we using? The 1/4 inch scale. We have 9/4 because there was 9 feet on the 1/4 inch scale. 4 goes into 9 how many times? It goes 2 times evenly, which is 8, leaving with 1/4 left over. So 2 1/4 inches is going to be the length of this line. Okay. Now, remember the part that I told you last time. When you're drawing that line, you should always make 2 little marks to make sure that you're drawing that line exactly parallel with the edge of your paper. Okay, but let's get all our math down first. And then once we get all the heights and the lengths of the line, then you're just going to simply need to be able to draw those and put that and center it on a piece of paper. The next line is going to be 8 feet, which is the same as over here. 8 feet is the height, and we're going on the 1/4 inch scale. So we have 8/4. 4 goes into 8 how many times? Twice. 2 times evenly. So that's 2 inches is the length of that line. Okay. We also have a length of a line here, which is 36 feet, which is going to be the same as this, 36 feet. So if we had 36 feet on the 1/4 inch scale, we've got 36/4. 4 goes into 36 how many times? Oh, it goes 9 times evenly. So that's a 9-inch line. So when you draw this, that's going to be on your ruler 9 inches when you scaled it down. Now, as you start to lay this off on your piece of paper, when you notice this line's going to be 9 inches, it tells you which way you have to orient your paper as you start to lay out the house. Can you do it? Can you lay your paper off portrait? Or does it need to be landscape? You say, oh, well, it's going to have to be landscape as I start. I don't have enough room to lay my house out this way. It's going to be off the sides of my paper, right? So you say, this one's not going to work for me. I've got to be able to draw a 9-inch line. Okay. Now, if you look at your regular copying paper, what should that measure? 8.5 by 11. So if it's 11 inches this way, we're going to end up taking up 9 of it. We have a 9-inch line. We have 11 inches to use. So how you center that is you say, what's the difference between 9 and 11? So we have 11 to use. We're using 9 of it. So we go from 9 inches to 11 inches is 2 more inches, 9, 10, 11. So we take how much extra do we have? And we need to split that half on one side, half on the other. So as you draw this 9-inch line, you're going to start 1 inch off the edge of the paper here, 1 inch off the edge of the paper here to center it up. Okay? You're not quite ready to really start drawing yet. You know which way it's sided left to right, but you're not sure where to start the 9-inch line height-wise up to come off the bottom of the paper. So we still got to figure that out. Now, if you remember from last lesson, this was a rise over run symbol, meaning that for every 12 inches horizontal that we travel, we are going vertically 5 inches. Okay, since we got a 12.5. Now what that is it's going to give you a pitch to this roof. So what we can do is you can figure out how steep of a pitch is this on this roof, and we need to be able to calculate it. And then we got to scale it. Okay, so let's figure out what it is in real life, and then we can scale that down. How much are we going to rise vertically? Okay, where is the center of this peak right here? So let's find the center of the house. What is the center of the house? Well, we said the total is 36 feet. Half of that is going to be, what's half at 36? 18 feet. 18 feet from the edge to the center. Okay. 18. Now, for every foot or 12 inches we go over, we need to go up 5 inches. So how many feet did we go over? 18. So we went 18. We went up 5, 18 times. So 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus your 4 is 90. Say 90. 90 what? Well, this was every 12 inches over, you're going to go 5 inches up. We said 12 inches is the same as 1 foot. We've got 18 feet. So 18 feet times 5 inches. So 5 times 18 is 90. That's 90 inches is what we came up with there. 90 inches. In real life, the peak of this house is 90 inches than that. But we've got to scale that. We can't draw 90 inches up. We've got to scale it down to the 1/4 inch scale. So let's see, what is 90? What's 90 inches? How do we convert inches over to feet? Take your inches. How many inches are in a foot? There's 12 inches in a foot. So you could take 90 and say, how many times does 12 go into 90? If you want to convert that to feet. So you say, all right, well, let's see. 90 divided by 12. And maybe you say, well, I don't know what that is. Well, give a guess here. Let's just say, let's look and say 7. See how close that is. 7 times 12 is going to be what for you? 7 times 2 is the 14. 7 times 1 is 7, plus the 1 is 8. 84. It's not, so it's not bigger than 90. We know 7 goes into, 7 times 12, 7 will go into 90. We know that it's not 12 more to get to 90, so 7 was a good guess on that thing. If you were guessing, 90 minus 84 is what? There's 6 more to get there. So we said 6 12ths. All right. Or let's see. Let's go out how you would normally do. How you normally work the problem is if you get a number here, you put a decimal here, put a decimal here, add a 0, bring down the 0, and say, how many times does that go into it? 5 would be 10. 5 plus the 1 is 60. Come up with 0. I think that's how you would normally work it in your math class and come up with a decimal answer. 7.5. So 7.5, 0.5 is a half. 7.5. And what is that? 7.5 what? Feet. You're trying to convert inches over to feet. All right. So we're going to say this is up over here. is 7½ feet to get from the here to the peak. Okay, but now 7½ feet, we've got to scale that, the 1/4 inch scale. 7½ just try to follow the math through here. We've got, because what were we doing before? We were taking our like 9/4, 8/4, 36/4. Now we got 7½. We said 7½ fourths. Every fraction is basically a division problem. 7½ divided by 4. So let's set that up. 7½ divided by 4. How can we work it? We change them both to improper fractions. 2 times 7 is 14. Plus the 1 is, so we got 15 halves divided by 4/1, which is the same thing as going multiplying by 1/4. So multiply straight across. 15 times 1 is 15. 2 times 4 is 8. 8 goes into 15 once with 7 left over, 7/8 of an inch left over. So if you took 7½ feet and you were to scale it on the 1/4 inch scale, the line is going to be 1 7/8 inches. So over here on your paper, you're going to go 1 7/8. 1 7/8 inches up from this line to the peak. Now you can get your total. You know the total width of the house is 9 inches. Now you know the total height of the house. So you're going to take and add up all these. You've got 2¼ plus 2 plus 1 7/8. Add them, and you can add them up here. You need to make those into like denominators. 8 is the common denominator. 4 goes into 8 twice. 2 times 1, 2. So you got 7, 8, 9 eighths. Add up your whole numbers. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So you have 5 and 9/8. We could say 8 goes into 9 how many times? Once. So we're going to add 1 to this side, leaving you 1 left over. So you have 6 and 1/8 is the total height of the house. Now you can go back to your piece of paper. What did we say that was? A piece of paper is 8½ by 11. Boy, what was that number? What did we just do? I forgot it just that quick as I got into something else. The paper was 11, 8½ by 11. We already figured the width. We said we're using 9 of the 11. Now we got to figure, so we had 2 left over, 1 inch on one side, 1 inch on the other. Now we had the 8½. You took 1 7/8. So you went 2¼ plus 2 plus 1 7/8. And you said 2/8, 7/8, 9/8, which is going to be the same as, there we go, 2, 4, 5, 6 and 1/8. Okay. Let's subtract 6 and 1/8 from 8½ and gives you how much you have left over. What's the common denominator? We can say 8. 2 goes into 8. 4 times 1. So we got 4 there. 4 minus 1 is 3/8. 8 minus 6, 2. So 2 3/8 inches is how much you have left over. What that means is if you took the piece of paper and you started drawing your house right on the bottom, on the very bottom of the piece of paper. Right here, this gap at the top, if you started drawing right at the bottom, would be 2 3/8 inches. Okay? But we don't want to do that. I want it centered. So you need to say, well, how do I center it? I put half at the top, half at the bottom. So what you need to do is you're going to take 2 3/8 and split it in half. Divide that by 2. 2 3/8 divided by 2. So we'll put that over 2 over 1. 8 times 2 is 16. 17, 18, 19. 19/8 times 1 over 2. Dividing by that is the same thing as multiplying by the inverse. 19 times 1 is 19. 8 times 2 is 16. 16 goes into 19 one time, and leaving you 3/16 left over. 1 3/16. Now, you can pause the video, go back and check that math. You need to be able to do that math. Let me stress that. You need to be able to fully understand how to multiply, divide, add, subtract fractions, mixed numbers, whole numbers, improper fractions, all that you need to be comfortable with, okay? In the plumbing class, chapter 3 is going to be the plumbing math, which will cover this. But you can see every little aspect of with trade work. You don't get away from that. You've got to be able to do that for some of the basic math there. Okay, so 1 3/16. So now you know where to start the bottom of your drawing at the house. You're going to come up off the bottom of the page, 1 3/16. Start your drawing, draw everything else. And when you're done, the peak ought to be 1 3/16 from the top of the piece of paper. Okay, there you go. That was just going back and checking what you were doing, and hopefully you all had that drawing already done and did the math. But if you didn't, there you go. You've got it now. So use some time, go back, make sure you've got your math done, follow that process through. Give me a nice clean drawing. Not a lot of erase marks. Nice straight lines, crisp, clear. Take some pride in your work and your drawings there. Okay, now we're going to move on. We're going to start to get into just an introduction to some bird's eye view drawings, orthographic aerial projection view. So if you're reading that in a blueprint reading class and you hear something about an orthographic aerial projection view, what that's talking about is just a bird's eye view is the common language for it. If you were a little bird flying over top of the house and you look straight down, how's that going to look to you? Looking straight over top of it. And that's how we're going to start our plumbing drawings, is from looking at them like that. So first of all, drawing is just builds on top of each other. So let's just start it off really simple. If you were a bird and you flew over a piece of pipe just laying on the ground, what is that going to look like to you? Okay. It's just going to look like, if it was just a straight piece of pipe, it's just going to look like a solid line. It's just laying there on the ground. Now, one thing about bird's eye view drawings, you can see a line looking like that, and we look at it saying, "Oh, that's going straight up and down." No, not from a bird's eye perspective. That's not going straight up and down. You're flying straight over it. It's just laying on the ground, depending on whatever angle it's laying on the ground. It could be laying like this. It could be laying like this. Whichever one. That's not up and down. That's not sloping down. That's not sloping up. That's not level. It's a bird's eye perspective. You're just looking down, and that thing's just laying on the ground. These are all horizontal pipes. So, on a bird's eye view drawing, if you your horizontal lines, meaning horizontal, it laying laying down, if you used to see a horizontal line on a bird's eye view drawing, it's gonna represent, it's a solid line. Okay? A solid line represents a horizontal piece of pipe. Now, that can change direction. Maybe you've got a piece of pipe, it's laying down, solid line. So that's not straight up and down, it's just a solid line, it's running horizontal. Okay? Solid lines represent horizontal pipe. Now, if you've been in the plumbing, you know that there's certain fittings that we've got that we can use to change a direction. So we could have something that cut across. Now, as we draw, you need to draw appropriately using these correct fittings. If you want that solid line to change direction, you need to put a fitting. We don't work with flex pipe. Not on the drains. We can't just go like this. I want to get over there. Nope, that is incorrect. This is correct. We need to use the fittings. So, what is that fitting? It turns, if you were to follow that straight through, there is turning 90. That is cutting right through there. That is the 45 on a 45-degree angle. So we call that a 45-degree bend, which if you're in the plumbing, in your code book, we say that's called an eighth bend. 45 degrees is an eighth bend. That's the name of the fitting. Okay. I'll focus more on making you call them by name and everything else when you're in the plumbing class and versus the in the drawing here. But so you've got a 45-degree to the eighth bend. You might also change. You can see some other things on your drawing. How about if you wanted to continue something straight on through in the drawing, but maybe you wanted something to come off like that. So you're looking at this right there, and you say, well, what fitting is that? So it coming off at 45 degrees in it, but it has something straight through also. That is going to be called a Y. This is how you spell it. Most of the time, you'll just see it just written out with just a little letter Y right there. Okay. So if you wanted to, you saw that on a drawing or were drawing that, make sure you're drawing. You could draw a Y. Here's something else you may draw. It may look like that right there. What is that fitting right there? It's coming in at 90 degrees. See that? That goes straight through. Here comes exactly perpendicular to it. So that's 90 degrees. Now, if you're in the plumbing class, you look at that and you say, oh, well, that could either be, if it's coming in at 90 degrees but has the straight through, that could either be a sanitary T. Spell it straight out, it would be T-E-E, or you could just say T. Okay, that comes in at 90 degrees. Another fitting that comes in at 90 degrees can be, it's a combination of a Y and an eighth bend. Now, combination of a Y and an eighth bend. Here's the Y fitting. Now, we also went over the eighth bend just before we drew the Y up here, and we said that is a 45 degree. So you come off at 45 degrees with the Y, turn another 45 degree angle. Okay, so you got 45 and 45, which is going to make 90 degree turn. And that's where we're going, a 90 degree turn. So if you combine a Y fitting and an eighth bend together, it gives you a combination Y and eighth bend. Now that combination Y and eighth bend gives you a longer radius sweep here. A sanitary T Does give you some little control, but it's tighter, a tighter bend. Plumbing drawing, in a drawing that you go see, you can't distinguish between the two. It's too hard to tell. It's just going to show that it's coming in at that 90-degree angle. You would have to understand have some plumbing knowledge in order to be able to look at a drawing and to be able to say, is that a sanitary T or is that a combination? If this is laying down horizontal, if you've been through the plumbing class, you're probably looking at it and say, oh yeah, we went through the code and we looked at the fittings for change in direction in chapter 7, and it told us that we couldn't put a sanitary T laid down on its side in the horizontal position. So you know it's not a sanitary T. You know you've got to go with that combination Y/8 bend. If this is new to you, then no, you wouldn't know that, okay? But don't worry. We're going to focus more on the drawing aspect and how to connect things and stuff, but you'll pick up on that along. And then especially if you take some of the plumbing courses, some of the, what fittings can I put in what positions, okay? Now, how about some other the fittings that we have is P-traps. A P-trap, if you look at it from the side, from a side perspective, it comes over, it's going to dip down, it makes this U, and it goes back up, okay? That might connect to, maybe it connects to a sink underneath the sink, so it comes down, traps under the sink, goes back in the wall. It could be under a shower, a tub, everything's going to have traps underneath. So we got a trap there. What's that going to look like from a bird's eye perspective, though? So if you wanted for a P-trap, so let's just say here there's a solid line. So that's a horizontal piece of pipe. And then if there was going to come over and catch a trap for a shower, you put like a little mark like this to represent like a turn down. And then we have a circle, which is going to represent a vertical turn. Now, just the way that on the horizontal solid lines represent horizontal pipe, what represents vertical pipe? Vertical pipe is going to be a circle. When you see a circle on the drawing, if you're flying straight over top and you look down, okay, so if you saw my marker, see that's solid line, you're looking and seeing the whole length of it. But if you turn this thing like that and you look down from going over top, all you see is a circle. So that's like the piece of pipe. So if you see a circle on the drawing, that is the vertical pipe. That is something that's coming straight up back at you. So to represent a P-trap, you have the turn down and then the circle after that. What does that look like from a different perspective? Well, maybe those solid lines running this way. You put a turn down and then the trap, okay? How about if it was running the opposite direction this way? A turn down and then the trap. Y'all see that? Doesn't matter which way it's going. There you go. These are all the symbols. This is the symbol for the trap, okay? All right. Okay, you have got enough of the basics now for us to get started. What we'll do is we are going to break down. I'm going to draw the fixture from a bird's eye perspective, and then we're going to put in the plumbing for it, okay? Solid line is what? Horizontal pipe. And what represents a vertical pipe? Circle. Okay, let's start off with a water closet. So here's some of the fixtures. So we're going to draw so if you see the abbreviation WC, that stands for water closet. What is a water closet? If you're new into plumbing, that's your toilet, the porcelain pony, the throne, whatever you want to call that. But the WC, on a drawing, If you see the abbreviation WC, it's standing for water closet, which is your toilet. Excuse me. So let's draw one from a bird's eye perspective. There's looking down on the tank. There's looking down on the toilet bowl. All right, so let's draw some plumbing for that. Now, what that's going to look like, let's draw a toilet from the side perspective. Okay, there's the tank. There's the bowl. Okay. Here's the floor that it's sitting on. There's the wall behind it. All right. There you are. See, I told you don't have to be a good drawer to do this, but there you are reading your favorite book. There you go. All right. While you sit there. Okay, so we're going to draw that toilet. What it looks like, for those who've been in the plumbing, you know the toilet mounts to what's called is a flange. It gets mounted to the floor there. I ought to draw this in another color. We mount this flange that screws to the floor. That stubs through. Then we glue something onto that. I'm gonna transition back over to stick figures here, and then it might come down and then turn out. Okay. Now, in real life, as we look at it from our sideways perspective here, this is the horizontal pipe, right? Look at this. To get underneath the floor, but then to turn vertical to get here, that is the vertical piece of pipe, right? Okay, but now we're going to draw this from a bird's eye perspective. So let's just say look at this. So the horizontal pipe's going out, looking like towards the front. If you were sitting here on the toilet, it's going out that way. Okay, so what would that perspective be from the bird's eye? It's going out this direction, correct? See that? So we're going to see a solid line, which is the horizontal pipe. Until we get to underneath the toilet, we have a vertical line. What represents a vertical line when in the bird's eye? If you remember us writing it down up here, it was a circle. There you go. This is the bird's eye drawing for this piping for this water closet. And you got it. Okay. Now, something that you may choose to do is we may put what's called a clean out in the line here. The code will let us clean. So if we got a stoppage in this pipe here, okay, to where stuff can't drain down, the code will allow us to pull the toilet up and then take you might have to get here, pull your toilet out of the way. And now you're going to get this big sewer machine that's got a cable that comes off of here. All right, it's got a big spool of cable in here. And you could feed this cable down through here. Now you're the little drain service tech. And you're going to be feeding the cable down the line until it hits this clog and breaks it free. So you need a place to clean it out. Now, if you didn't want to use where the toilet was sitting, you may come out the back here, and there would be the symbol for a clean out. So there's another symbol that you have. Okay, that represents a clean out, a place to clean it out. The abbreviation, CO. CO. So if you see WC, what does that stand for? What does WC? Water closet. That's right. What's CO? Clean out. Now, if we put a clean out in the back of this thing, what does it look like up here? The horizontal, it goes straight through the horizontal run, right out the back of this. See, there's the circle right there. So we're going to come straight out the back of the circle, and then we have a line. That represents the clean out. So we're going to say CO is right there. So you know we have a clean out in the back. That can go from any angle. Let's just draw maybe the toilet's sitting this way. And if I told you take the drain out in this direction, you'd say, okay, well, I'm going to have a circle right under the toilet. And I'm going to draw the drain going out in that direction. But then if I told you, oh, but put a clean out in the back. Okay, come out the back and put a little line for a clean out. You got it? It is, say, boy, that's pretty simple. Yeah, it is. There's not a whole lot to it. At least not yet, not this phase. So if I drew a water closet, I'll say, hook a drain to my water closet. The bowl's getting bigger and the tank's getting smaller. But I said, take the drain going out in that direction, and let's put a clean out in the back. We'd say, okay, there's my water closet flange. There's my vertical turn to the toilet. The drain is going in that direction. And he said, put a clean out in the back. Come out. And a clean out. Good. There you go. Here might be a stumper. How about if you had a water closet? And I said, take the drain out in that direction. And put a clean out in the back. And say, oh, well, I got a vertical turn. Gets the water closet. I'm going to take the drain out in that direction. I'm going to put a clean out in the back. There you go. Okay? So there's not a whole lot to your water closet. So make sure that in your drawings, I would recommend that you had a little notepad or something out that you could go through and write fixtures, water closets, and then give a little drawing of that, just to give yourself a little reminder of what your water closet is going to look like. What we're going to do, I've given you one. You could draw a water closet now. And I'm going to give you a lavatory, okay? And then you're going to know how to draw. Well, let me know. I'll hit a lavatory eventually. Let's go to a shower or something like that. But we're going to do one fixture at a time. I'm going to show you how to draw the plumbing for it. And then once we got those down, individual fixtures, what we'll do is we'll start to combine them, okay? And say, oh, but how about we have a half bath now to where I've got a toilet and a lavatory, which is a bathroom sink. Now, how am I going to join that piping, okay? Then it starts to get a little more tricky. I'll give you a few more rules, but if you step on top of it, it's not going to be a problem, okay? Yeah, let's go to, let's draw another one. Let's go to a shower. Okay. So we'll take a shower. It's probably going to look like this on your floor plan. This one's got a center drain there. And they'll have these little marks like this showing like a pan that's all sloping back in towards that drain on a shower. Now, what you're going to do for this one is I might tell you, take this shower and I want you to plumb it going, let's take it out in this direction. Okay? Now, what we're going to find right under a shower drain is going to be a P-trap, okay? So we got to draw the symbol for a P-trap. The drain, we said, goes out in this direction, and the P-trap is going to be on the end of it. Do you remember what the symbol for the P-trap looked like? It had a turn down, and then the circle for a turn up. And that circle is going to be right underneath that drain. The turn down, and then the circle with the turn up. All right? I said, oh, well, wait a second. I didn't want it going out in that direction. I actually wanted the drain going that way. So, okay, the drain is coming from this direction. We get to there, we turn a turn down, and then a turn back up. Symbol for the P-trap, right on the end of a piece of horizontal pipe. No matter which way I took it, okay, it's going to be the same. I said, wait a second, that's not how I was going to have it. I really wanted the drain going out that direction. Okay, the little dip over the trap, and then the vertical turn. That's for the shower. Okay. Let me add one more thing to this. Vents. Okay. Vent piping. Vent lines. If it's horizontal, if they're horizontal vents, they're going to be represented as or as dashed lines. Okay. Remember the pipes, just the regular drain lines. Horizontal lines are going to be solid lines. So if I took a horizontal piece of pipe and that was a drain line, so that's horizontal drain line, solid line. Now let's do horizontal vent pipe. It's going to be, okay, so still run horizontally, but it's going to be dashed. Now, if I'm adding a vent in, though, and it's going to be vertical, I can't tell any difference, because when I look at the end of these pipes, if I take a drain line and turn it up, or the vent pipe and I turn it up, all I'm seeing is I'm going to be looking down the end of it if I turned them up from this way, and I'm going to be seeing the circles, the open ends of those pipes. I'm just going to see the circle. Now, let's go back to that shower. How about if I was to tell you, plumb up the shower. I want the drain going in this direction, but I want you to put a vent, individually vent the shower, meaning you need to see a vent. And if you're new to the drawing, that venting and everything else might not make a lot of sense to you right now. There's more that I need to get into with that. But for now, if I tell you to vent, put a vent for this shower, it's going to be a vent pipe is going to be a pipe that ties to the drain line, and it ends up running out to the air to where it allows the system to be able to breathe air in or to let air out, okay? So let's look at this. Now, vent pipes need to be hidden in walls and things so they get covered up to where you don't see them. So we're going to take the drain out. We're going to have a trap right here. Vertical turn, the turn down. This is going to run this direction. Drain going out this way. But now, when you get to the wall, if I ask to put a vent, to hide it in the wall, we're going to turn a vertical piece of pipe right there. And then how you will see it abbreviated is they're just going to put a V. Okay? So if we said a vent, just a regular vent is going to be abbreviated V. Now that means with that vent, you may choose to go straight up out with it. You might take that vent up and tie it back to other vents and go out. Now, if they said this is our main vent, for those who've been in the plumbing class, you know that every house has to have at least one main vent. It goes to the open air. It's got to be sized a little different. It's got to be where it connects to a little different. So if it's the main vent, you're going to see that abbreviated MV. Now, another one you might see is MV. That would be main vent through roof. The main vent goes right through the roof, right at this point where you see it on the drawing. So you might see just V for vent, MV for main vent, or MVTR, main vent through the roof. Okay? But maybe I changed it and said, oh, wait a second, that's not the direction it was going. I needed it run out the other way. No big deal. Symbol for the P-trap. Right under the drain. Goes out this direction. Circle for the vent in the wall. Label it as V so you know it's a vent. And there you go. All right. We're going to actually stop there at this point. Next class period, we will end up going, we'll cover some of the fixtures. We're going to cover tubs, lavatory sinks, kitchen sinks, and laundry connections. That should have all your basic residential plumbing fixtures. So look back at this. Make sure that you finish up your the scaling drawing, that you've got that. So I'm going to give you, with everything that's going on, we'll extend that project to get that done a little bit more. You got a little more time on that. Let's get that done. And then that's where we'll pick up next class, going over these fixtures. So just kind of review over it. Make sure that you know at this point, you need to be able to make sure you can read a tape measure. And then you've got your scaling, and start to go over and just look back over your notes so that you got everything down. As far as, I really recommend draw each fixture out and show a little bit of the drawing of the plumbing for it, so that when we start to get them all and start to combine them, you can just quickly reference back your drawings and say, oh yes, that's how I did it for that fixture. It's going to really make it a lot easier for you. So, all right. Hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll look forward to seeing you next time. I will send out announcements to you as far as making sure we know where we're meeting, when we're meeting, and all that. So if you got any questions, please just reach out to me. I'll look forward to seeing you next time.